Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a young engineer destined for traveling to outer space? Well, today on the show we have our first interview where we explore that journey. What's up everyone, I'm Jake Voorhees and you're watching episode 26 of the 1% Engineer Show, where we empower young engineers to rise to the top 1% of their career. Get job hunting focused 1% Nation with my ebook, The Top 10 Job Hunting Tips for Engineers. Now I'd like to introduce our featured guest, Aaron Shepard. Enjoy! What's up guys? Okay, so today we're doing our first interview show. We have Aaron Shepard here. He's an electrical engineer from Clemson. He has research that's funded by NASA, does a bunch of other stuff on the side. So he's on the show today because I believe his story, his passion about wanting to be the first, I guess not minority, but person of color, black astronaut to set foot on another planet. That's your life goal, right? He's
yes,
here
sir.
today to talk about what he's been involved with and some of the cool things that he's doing on his road to completing his degree at Clemson as an electrical engineer. So welcome, Aaron, and thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate having you here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I truly believe that engineering changes the world. And so to everyone who's a part of the 1% Engineer Society, thank you so much for your passion and your dedication to your work.
Nice. So besides that little intro, which we've known each other for a month or two, so
yeah,
just kind of picking up the big nuggets, maybe fill in some of those gaps, some stuff that I didn't mention, maybe a couple things about your personal life, but give us the official Aaron Shepard intro.
Okay, so in addition to my studies and my research, I'm really passionate about advocating for STEM. I work for an organization on campus called PeerWise, which works to increase and retain the numbers of women and underrepresented minorities in engineering and science subjects. I tutor undergraduate students during the semester, and sometimes I have the opportunity to host robotics workshops for visiting middle and high school students. I actually have a workshop coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm busy getting ready for that. So outside of school and research, I love to travel. I've been to about 9 different countries on 4 different continents. One of my personal goals is to touch all 7 continents, so I'm a little bit over halfway there. My next great adventure is I'm getting my scuba certification later this month, and with that, I hope to explore new places as an aquanaut and get a little bit of practice for when I become an astronaut. In my free time, I love to run. I was a cross-country and track runner in undergrad. I play video games. I build drones, 3D printers. I salsa dance with my wife, and I love being lazy with my dog.
You do everything. Wow, man, I didn't even know about a lot of that stuff. That's incredible.
Yeah, I tried it.
Yeah, this is one thing that I talk about with the community is just do more stuff, because it always leads to the next little things. It leads to another relationship, and you never really know what's going to be next. I'm sure like a few years ago you wouldn't have envisioned yourself going out for scuba or maybe but it's like here you are now, right? And it always leads to bigger and better things. That's great, man. Thanks for all that. One thing that the 1% engineers are all about, a lot of them are seniors in high school who know they want that STEM route, or maybe they're undecided engineering. So this is a 2-part question. Now that you're kind of got your feet on the ground and you know where you're going, but how is it that you decided on electrical engineering? And that's the main part. And then because I'm repping your school, Clemson, what made you, here's that orange, go Tigers, right? I actually
go Tigers, yeah.
One of my friends just got married last weekend who went to Clemson, and all of her family were Delaware people. I went to UD, and she like broke away from the hive and chose Clemson. So
yeah, man.
So anyway, I got this orange one for you. So anyway, what made you choose electrical engineering? Because as an astronaut, you could be mech, you could be aerospace, of course, you could just be physics, but what made you want to do electrical? And then also, how did you choose Clemson?
Okay, so I knew that I was interested in robotics before I came to Clemson, and since robotics is such a diverse field, you can get into it by studying a whole bunch of different subjects. You can do mechanical engineering, electrical, computer engineering. So what I did is I looked at the coursework required for each degree, and I looked at the subjects that you would take. And I found that doing electrical engineering would actually give me a good balance between hardware and software. And when you're doing robotics, that's actually a key, because robotics is a very integrative field, so you have to know a little bit about everything. I also looked at all of the professors on campus who were doing robotics research. And the one professor whose work I really liked, and ironically it's the lab that I work in now, is based out of the electrical engineering department, so that made being a double E an easy choice for me. Plus, if I can be honest, some of my favorite engineers, both real and fictional, are double E's. So Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Tony Stark, all electrical engineers. So I feel like I'd be in good company if I studied there. I chose Clemson because I was actually working in the Greenville area, so about an hour away from Clemson, when I decided, hey, I want to go back, I want to do my master's in electrical engineering. And in doing so, honestly, in the southeastern region, we have a lot of great programs, but I feel like Clemson is just one of the top-notch ones. I mean, of course, there's NC State, Georgia Tech, but there's just something magical about Clemson. And plus, it was easy for me because I was in the area, I was in state, and on top of that, I wouldn't have to relocate my wife or anything, so it just all worked out.
Yeah. Oh, so you're in a grad program at Clemson. I didn't realize that.
Well, I'm joining the grad program soon, since my bachelor's is actually in biochem. And okay. since I studied a different subject, I have to take a couple of catch-up classes, but I will actually be starting my graduate work hopefully after the end of this semester.
Very cool. Very cool. Because I saw that you went to the other school. I can't remember the name of it, sorry. But I wasn't sure if you were going to Clemson to, you're doing like a two-school type thing. But that's really good, yeah. I think having that master's degree leading forward, plus if you want to be an astronaut, right? I think PhD is like if you're not military, I know of a couple who just have masters, but you pretty much have to have that PhD. Yeah, especially nowadays, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's great, man. Thanks for all that. Glad to hear why you chose Clemson. And a part of me, when you talk about Clemson, I know that the sports culture and just like the student pride, like it's a part of the pie.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I actually, when I was an undergrad, it was also in a school in South Carolina, and we would go to Clemson for track meets, and I could not tell you why, but every time we would go, I would just feel like such an energy. Yeah. Or I felt like there was something special about this place, and lo and behold, a little bit of time later, I'm there as a student. So it's kind of funny how life works. But the culture is phenomenal. The sports pride, just the pride in general. I remember I was actually out in like Nevada with one of my friends on the way to Las Vegas, and I had on a Clemson shirt, and we were at the Hoover Dam, and somebody's like, "Go Tigers!" I'm like, "Really? All the way out here? Okay."
Tiger Nation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So keep that in mind. 1% engineers, if you have to decide between a smaller niche school versus bigger, energetic sports program type national scale school, it's just going to help because you never know who's going to be connected to that school, just like Aaron just said. Plus, like, look at the big smile that came onto Aaron's face when he talked about it. It's just like, that adds to it. Okay, so let's go on to question 3. Aaron, you're so passionate about space. Your dream is to be an astronaut and set foot on another world. I love how you said that in your video. You said another world, not another planet, because world is just an unlimited type of term. So just like the first question with how did you choose electrical engineering, what was it? Maybe a childhood story or something, but how are you so passionate about space? Tell us a little bit about how you have come down this niche of electrical into robotics, linked into future space travel and space technologies. What made you want to do research for this field and this initiative? I'd love to hear that story.
If you had asked me, well, why space, when I was 5 years old, I would have just said, because space is cool, duh. But just as I have grown and matured throughout all this time, my reason and my drive for pursuing space exploration has also grown with me. as I got older, I realized that I had this fear of wasting potential. I didn't want to wake up as an old man one day and realize that I hadn't done anything meaningful with my life or my work. I knew that I wanted to be in a career field that is innovative, exciting, and that one that would constantly call for creative problem solving. And so, in my opinion, space exploration is the best way to meet all of those requirements. We're constantly developing this new technology to help humanity reach these places that we have never seen before. I think space exploration is the most powerful catalyst for innovation in our society and for technological advancement. But perhaps the most powerful force that's been driving my passion are the social advancements that space exploration brings. Now that I'm an adult, I see these borders that we as people create between ourselves based on differences in skin color, nationality, religion, and political beliefs. But exploring outer space and looking back at Earth shows us that these borders don't really exist. Space programs give us a higher viewpoint of our world and of our place in this universe. It promotes national and international collaboration and unites us on our common humanity rather than separate us on our minor differences. All of these opportunities for technological and societal advancement make me passionate about space. Plus, I mean, let's be honest, like, it would be really, really cool to like say, oh yeah, I went to the moon, I went to Mars, I floated in zero G. So yeah, like, so it's a no-brainer as to why I'm so passionate about this.
100%, 100%. I'm really glad to hear everything you say about how separating our differences down here on little Earth and thinking about greater collective goals. And I'm so tuned in to everything that SpaceX and I guess a little bit of Blue Origin and some of these other small companies are doing. But that's really what Elon Musk is trying to do is he says, listen, guys, yeah, we got some decent problems about politics and XYZ, but like something could happen to Earth. We could already climatically be out of balance. Some asteroid could come out of nowhere. Like the filters to stop greater consciousness from advancing and just eliminate. I mean, we've seen it on this planet before. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs, they were doing pretty well. Gone. Yeah. Could you imagine if dinosaurs had another 65 million years to evolve? They could be super dinosaurs on space shuttles and things like this. And we do not need that to happen. I tell people all the time, just look at the moon. Like, imagine what Earth would look like if we didn't have vegetation. It is crushed with all types of stuff that would just eliminate every human on the Earth. So we need to be on Mars. We need to be on other planets. We need to stop worrying about religion, race, all these other things, because these space initiatives are like, that's one of the biggest threats to mankind is not being on another planet. So
right, yeah.
We need people like you who are forging this, so this is awesome. Question 4, I'm so impressed that your research or future research, or I don't know if I think you're currently working on it, but in your video, and this is one of the things that impressed me right away, you say my research that's funded by NASA, and what little hair that I have, I'm like, what? This is so cool. So I would love to hear, just briefly, in essence, I know it's robotics oriented, but even more so, you can give us the summary about what you're doing and why you're into that, but more so, how did it happen that you landed this research, and how did NASA become a backer? I would love to hear how you got involved with that, how you got hooked up with this professor or whatever, but the story for you, this is for 1% Nation, but they're always looking for big opportunities to get involved with companies and research and whatever projects, and research funded by NASA. I mean, that speaks for itself. In the room, when you're networking in a job situation, like, it's like, okay, so tell us that story, how you landed this and how this came about for you.
Okay, so I do research in a lab that focuses on continuum robotics. Continuum robots are basically tentacle-like, and they can bend at any point along their limb. These have distinct advantages over your traditional robotic arm that can only bend at the specific joint. Like, everybody's seen like the 6-axis robot arm. So with these tentacle robots, you can use them to wrap around and grab objects without the need for additional attachments, such as satellites or space debris. you can also bend these robots into some pretty cool shapes. And so that allows you to explore tight crevices and examine structures like the International Space Station for meteorite damage. My research in particular is more about developing a robot that can wrap itself around satellites and capture them.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah. So I got this opportunity because I asked for it. Before I came to Clemson, like I said, I knew that I wanted to do robotics, and so I looked up every professor that was doing robotics research. And once I found this professor in particular, I emailed him and said, "Hey, can I visit your lab? I want to learn more about your work." And I just kind of showed like, "Hey, I'm really interested. Like, can I see this?" And he emailed me back and said, "Yeah, sure." So 6 months before I even came to campus, I did a tour of his lab. I saw all of the projects. I really just felt at home while I was there. And he happened to mention, a lot of his work, he gets funded by the NSF, the National Science Foundation, NASA, the Department of Defense. And so I was like, okay, well, this is obviously the place for me. When I got to campus, I made sure to stay in touch. I took a semester just to get acclimated, get used to being back in school. But then at the end of my first semester, I emailed him again and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in coming on and actually doing research." And he said, "Yeah, sure." And so we had a meeting, and he gave me a couple of projects to choose from. And one of the projects happened to be NASA and space related. So I said, of course, I'll take that one. It was already funded on a NASA grant that he received because, again, he has a lot of contacts. He used to actually live in Houston, and he goes back to Johnson Space Center about 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So I said, yes, I need to connect with you. I need to work with you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't stop there. I didn't stop there. I wanted more involvement with NASA. I wanted more funding, obviously. And so I applied for a fellowship from the South Carolina Space Grant Consortium. And now what that is essentially NASA will give money to each state, and they will give out fellowships to promote undergraduate research through a space grant consortium. Again, I found the application, or I actually heard about the space grant consortiums when I was on Reddit, and somebody advised me, "Hey, you should look there." And so I did. I met the school's contact for the South Carolina Space Grant Consortium, and then I just had a meeting with him. He told me about some of the opportunities, and then when it came time to apply, I did, and I got selected for a Minorities in STEM Research Fellowship. And so with that, I'm funded for the summer, and I have to present my research at a conference of my choosing within the next year, which is, again, more opportunities for me to network and more opportunities for me to get funding. So I think my professor is talking about sending me to Montana in March, next March. So
Okay.
It'll be like on a ski resort. So I'm kind of excited because I've never skied before. But
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Not too many Appalachian ski hills down there in South Carolina, I know.
No, I don't think skiing is something we do down here.
Yeah. I was just in Vancouver for 4 years, and how many times did I ski? 0. Wow, so
Oh, man.
that story is amazing. There's really 3 lessons, I think, 1% Nation here, that you can learn from Aaron. First of all, that informational interview. You said, "Hey, I want to come in to your professor," before he was even your professor. "I want to come in, I want to learn more about whatever you're doing." He could probably read the passion off of the email and said, "Yeah, absolutely, let's come on in." So informational interviews, guys, I have made videos about that. And then 2, I love how you started. You said, "How did I get this situation? How did I get this research? I asked for it." Ask for nothing and you will receive for nothing, guys. Ask for the world and you will receive the world. If you actually have that passion, that drive, people will say yes. People want to enable you to follow your dreams, especially if you are genuine and you actually mean everything. And people can tell that genuineness comes right out. And then the third thing, you applying for this fellowship, seeking out greater pieces of career boosting and acceleration. Good for you, man. Just put in that grind, put in that hustle. people say, oh, how do I find the next opportunity? How do I go on to the next step? Well, you need to hunt it down sometimes. And every once in a while, you need to apply for that fellowship. You need to apply for that grant. So that's 3 micro lessons you can learn just from that story about how you got this NASA research. I'm so happy you told us all this. You're awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
So here we go. Question 5. This is a stacked question for sure because you can probably go in about 5 different directions with this answer.
Right.
But question 5 is all of these things that you've been involved with, your research and your volunteering and visiting. We didn't even talk about you visiting Johnson Space Center lately, or trying out for these awards like the exploration station concept. What was it? Exploration. How do you say it?
It was a student astronaut contest.
Yeah.
The winner gets to go to the Mars analog site in Hawaii. So
pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely really cool. Unfortunately I didn't get selected as a finalist, but it was an awesome experience.
Okay. I shared the video. We tried. I saw you almost got 10,000 views on that video, so that's awesome.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like I did not think that was going to happen, and actually, this actually segues into my answer if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. That's basically the finale to the question is you're involved with all this stuff, and you listed off about double the amount of things that I already thought that you were involved with, which is just so much. You're doing everything. You're everywhere. So really, I always encourage 1% engineers to do all this stuff, and then I like to ask people like you, how has one thing led to another, or how has maybe mentioning that contest or mentioning your research with NASA, how have these, give us maybe one core example or 1 or 2 examples about how these things you've been able to name drop or mention this research or talk about tutoring or something like this. How has it been able to sort of make an interview really easy, or you're at a job thing, some networking event, and you mention your professor's name, or you mention one of these extracurriculars that you didn't have to do. How has it helped you out? Maybe one example about this for 1% Nation.
I mean, well, the most obvious example would be just this interview. If I hadn't pursued the student astronaut contest, then I wouldn't be speaking to 1% Nation right now. I think relationships are the most important part of any career field, and my involvement with extracurriculars has given me the opportunity to connect with incredible and driven people such as you and Nehemiah and Brianne. And with these relationships, I can begin working towards my goals while gaining the support of others within kind of my STEM community. The extracurriculars also give me the opportunity to travel, to see new things. Like you said, I was in Johnson Space Center. I got to do special tours at the Space Vehicle Mock-up facility. I got to work in a real-life ISS module, like the same ones that they train the astronauts on. So, and with all that, again, it's experiences that I'm logging, and when I do go to networking events or when I do go to interviews, I can casually say, hey, yeah, well, Johnson, yeah, I've been to Johnson. I actually met the engineer who built Robonaut. Oh, really? What was that like? Or I saw the lab where Valkyrie was being built. And so with these experiences, again, the biggest thing that I think is the relationships. Those are invaluable, and those apply in so many different fields, whether it be professional or for personal branding or whatever you want. But my thing is, you have to be involved in a whole lot. You have to build relationships, and with all that momentum, you can begin to work towards your own goals.
100%. 1% Nation, you're always in the people business. I'm really happy, Aaron, that you ended it that way by saying you're always building these relationships that can lead to the next relationship, the next opportunity. And in a way, it's this small community, which is either like transportation engineering or space for you or whatever that you guys are involved with. I'm glad you mentioned Nehemiah and Brianne, because she's a mechanical engineer and he is a bridge engineer, and it's really like these little communities are all helping each other become more awesome. And the more people that you meet along the way, the more things that you do along the way, it just allows you to get to that next step that you didn't even think was going to be a part of your environment. part of your future. So that's awesome. Really good stuff, man. Really good, good little ads here. I love this. With that being said, those are the 5 questions. We're gonna move on to the lightning round now, which is
okay.
Just some little quickies. We'll get this started now. So, Aaron, what is one habit that contributes to your success?
At the beginning of my day, I try to either make a mental or a physical list of all the things that I want to get done. It helps me stay productive and stay on task, and it kind of gets me used to that astronaut lifestyle because you may or may not know, but the astronauts on the ISS, they're scheduled down to about the minute. So, again, just at the beginning of my day, I try to figure out everything that I want to get done and organize it, and then I just start knocking out the list.
Very good. If you could mention one mistake that you made as a student so that 1% Nation can learn from that, what would you mention?
Well, when I was in undergrad, I majored in biochemistry, which is something that I really wasn't passionate about. I just did it because everybody said, oh, you're smart and medicine is the future. My advice is to take the time and find out what really drives you and then pursue it. Like, wholeheartedly, don't hesitate, just do it.
Very good. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received is to always speak up. If you're interested in something, say it. If you want something, don't be afraid. Just ask for it.
Always gotta ask. Ask for nothing, you receive nothing.
Exactly.
Besides space and Mars, can't allow you to say that one because everyone knows you love space. That's your passion. That's your dream. What's another thing, maybe a technology or something? Doesn't have to be a technology, but what's one other thing that you're pumped up for right now?
I'm surprised you didn't say robotics, so I'm going to say robotics.
Okay. Maybe within that. Yeah. Within robotics, maybe one like specific thing.
Definitely artificial intelligence. I think that as we go on, these robots are going to get smarter and smarter. Some people are scared because they've seen like every sci-fi movie ever, and they're like, no, the robots are going to attack. But from my perspective, as long as we develop this the right way, within the next, I guess, probably maybe 50 to 100 years, we'll all have our own personal AI assistants like Tony Stark.
Yep.
So
it's going to be good. And I know you've seen Handle from Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know about Handle, which used to be owned by Google, this company called Boston Robotics that made Handle, that is insane. Google it right now. And final question for you, Aaron. If you could recommend one book to the 1% engineers, what would that be?
Well, I actually just finished reading The Ordinary Spaceman by Clayton Anderson. Clayton he is from Nebraska. He worked at NASA. He applied to be an astronaut 15 times and got it on the 15th time. Nice. And so he flew early. I forgot the missions. I think it's like STS-121, so right around the time when the ISS was just getting started. And so his story is phenomenal. He talks about the process that he went through. He highlights the good things, the bad things. He's not afraid to mention his mistakes, and it was just a really good story to read as far as relentlessly pursuing your dreams.
Awesome. I'm glad you mentioned the thing about mistakes too, because I just listened to this podcast where they said that success stories don't make for the best stories. It's the mistakes that you learn from, the dips, the valleys that you can overcome from. Those are the best stories, and that's what people want to hear about. Not when you just winning, right? So, that's a good mention. Well, I guess the final thing, Aaron, as we wrap up this interview, if there are any electrical engineers out there, or maybe some people down south, maybe there's some Clemson people out there, maybe some future astronauts as well, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to connect? And after that, we'll say thanks and goodbye.
Well, they can probably get in touch with me via social media. Definitely. My handle is at Space Cadet Shep.
I'll link it up.
And also I have a website, which when you message the website, it'll message my email and all that. So I'm always looking to advocate, to mentor, to advise, especially to younger engineers who don't know what they want to do yet. I'm always available. So yeah, social media, my website, anyway.
So thank you so much, Aaron, for being the first person to be interviewed on the 1% Engineer Show. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for being the first person to be interviewed on the 1% Engineer Show. And Have a good rest of your day, man. We'll talk later. Message Aaron, guys, and follow the rest of his story.
Yeah. Bye. Yeah.
Hey, 1% Nation. I hope you enjoyed our interview today with Aaron Shepard. If you did, please consider subscribing so we can reach more 1% engineers like you. If you have any questions for Aaron or things that you want to learn about on the 1% Engineer Show, comment below and we can make a video for that. Thanks for watching the 1% Engineer Show, guys, and stay hungry on your quest to become a 1% engineer. Cheers!